if the US side insists on making the visit and challenges China's red line, it will be met with resolute countermeasures. The US must bear all consequences arising thereof. Unquote. That's what the Chinese embassy spokesperson in India had to say. Let me bring in my colleague and our senior executive editor who's joining us on this broadcast. Abhishek, it does seem that China appears to be quite rattled with the positioning that the United States has taken. And over the last few months, perhaps, what we have seen is that US has basically solidified their position as far as Taiwan is concerned.
First time that a U.S. congressional delegation is visiting Taiwan, or someone higher up in the hierarchy in the U.S. government is visiting Taiwan. But it seems that this time the difference is that the Chinese have drawn a red line, a new red line, and we have seen very shrill voices coming in from the Chinese Ministry of Defense, from the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In this case, these are a series of tweets by the Chinese spokesperson of their embassy in Delhi, in fact, Wang Xiaojian, and he says that the visit by Speaker Pelosi would constitute a gross interference in China's internal affairs. We have seen live fire exercises being carried out in Fujian province down south, abutting the Taiwan Strait, and we have seen the Chinese Defense Ministry saying, or Chinese experts suggesting, that when Nancy Pelosi's plane goes into Taiwanese airspace, the Chinese military, the Chinese PLA Air Force aircraft might follow. Clearly intimidatory tactics, saber rattling and whatnot being carried out by the Chinese because they want their new red line to be respected. It's still not clear whether the United States would blink, because all indication in the last 24 hours is that despite Nancy Pelosi not mentioning Taiwan in her departure statement, is all set to actually make a pit stop in her four-nation Indo-Pacific tour. But this is clearly China really, Shawan, scaling up its intransigence, scaling up its recalcitrance and sort of bullying in the neighborhood to a level where they are trying it with the United States as well. As I said, it would be interesting to watch whether the United States blinks, because in the last 24 hours at least, they have not given any indication of that kind.
Well, Abhishek, I'll request you to stay on as Sushant Sareen is joining on this broadcast. Mr. Sareen, how would you essentially read this tweet that has now been put out by the Chinese embassy spokesperson in India? As I was asking this question to Abhishek also, what we have essentially seen in the last few months is that US has tried to solidify their entire positioning of Taiwan in the backdrop of what's happening in the Russia-Ukraine war. So how exactly are you looking at these developments?
Look, I think the kind of strident posturing which the Chinese have adopted does not come as any surprise. And I think they are trying to use this as an opportunity to convey not just to the United States, but countries around the world that they will have to face to China's wrath if, they do any kind of business or they lend any kind of legitimacy to the Taiwanese. Now, clearly this is a challenge for the United States. Now, a lot of the Chinese rhetoric is only that, just rhetoric. What are they going to do? Are they going to declare war on the United States? I don't think that's going to happen. That's highly unlikely. Not at a time when, you are seeing a downturn in the Chinese economy. The Chinese are extremely dependent upon the United States and the West. So I don't think they're going to go down that road. I would be extremely surprised if they were going to do something like that. But I think even if they eat humble pie, even if their bluff is called at this point in time, and the U.S. Speaker, Congress Speaker, does go to Taiwan, I don't think this will be the end of the matter. I think what will happen is that the Chinese will then think of ways of undermining Taiwan. They'll look at other ways of trying to get even with the Americans. a lot of what we have seen in our own context. We saw Doklam happen. For 2 years, there was complete silence on the Chinese side. Everybody became kind of complacent. The pandemic struck, and we kind of, were caught a little unawares when the Chinese tried to encroach on our territory, or at least brought a substantial number of troops along the line of actual control. And we saw what happened.
Right.
We've seen what has happened since then. So even in Doklam, after eating humble pie, the Chinese have started encroaching all over again, albeit in a slightly different way and a different area. But nevertheless, they started doing that. So maybe we will see a similar pattern of behavior as far as South China Sea, as far as Taiwan or the Taiwan Straits are concerned. We'll probably see something similar going forward, even if they beat a hasty retreat. Of course, if the Americans, do not go to Taiwan, if Nancy Pelosi does not go to Taiwan, then I think the impact of that on American power, American prestige, will be significant. Because a lot of countries in the region will think that the Americans have been browbeaten by the Chinese, and I don't think that is something which we would look upon very nicely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sureen, for putting this into perspective. We're also getting in some more breaking news right now. We'll be shifting focus to another